Well, the A50X has been out for a few months now, but it wasn't until the most recent update that it actually started working as intended for me. I have been using it on my live streams over at my sim rig pretty much every week since I got it, but as far as the full review, I decided to wait until the firmware was updated till it actually worked on my Philips Momentum TV here with my Xbox Series X, and finally that day has come. So let's dive in and check out this very neat but very niche gaming headset. Hey everybody, I'm Jordan with 9 to 5 Toys. It seems like Logitech has aimed for a very specific use case with the A50X. For that hefty $380 price tag, you get a base station that will obviously charge the headset, but on the back here it has a bunch of HDMI pass-throughs, so you can connect it to an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a PC all at the same time, and it will do automatic HDMI switching between the PlayStation and the Xbox. So obviously Logitech is aiming at multi-platform users here, which they say there are quite a few out there, but even though I have a few platforms out here in my office, they aren't anywhere close enough that I'd be able to use this with all of them at the same time. So it's still an interesting setup here. But beyond just that flexibility with using multiple platforms, they're packing some of the latest technology from Logitech. They do have the graphene drivers in here that we saw in the Pro X2 Lightspeed. And those drivers boast, some very rigid construction that is supposed to help with clarity for gaming. You also get simultaneous Bluetooth, which is run through the base station, not the headset itself, and some really deep EQ customization. But it lacks some of the other premium features we've come to expect from higher-end headsets like ANC. Design-wise, Logitech stays firmly planted in the gamer aesthetic with the A50X. While there aren't any RGB or iridescent colors like the A30, the A50X has large adjustable arms with a large, always attached microphone. And it's a very good microphone. We'll check that out here in a second. Its square ear cups hide a few controls on the right side. On the outside of the ear cup are buttons to adjust the game and chat volume. Along the perimeter of the right ear cup are the power button, play sync button, which will swap between those different modes for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, and a Bluetooth button. On the bottom of the ear cup is a USB-C port as well as some charging contacts. My only complaint with the controls is that the volume wheel over here, it's placed in the back on the right ear cup. When I'm sitting in my sim rig and I'm wearing a hooded sweatshirt, something with a little bit more cloth coming up here, there have been times where I've leaned over to get a controller or to get a drink of water, and I've accidentally adjusted that volume when I haven't meant to, so I get a lot louder or a lot more quiet than I had intended it to. So pretty nitpicky kind of thing there, but that is my only complaint when it comes to the controls on here. But moving on, let's talk about comfort, which I do think is a highlight of this headset. I commented on this on my live unboxing, but I was really surprised by how small the ear cups look. The cloth in here, it looks like a very small area to, squeeze over your ears, but once I actually put it on, I didn't have any issues with comfort. I really do find this to be quite comfortable. When I am sitting at my sim rig for hours streaming or just otherwise gaming, it's a very comfortable material on here with plenty of give in here. It's not super firm, so it sits nice and soft on my head. There's also some padding over the driver cover in here, so it's not like your ears are pressed against the driver cover and feeling anything uncomfortable in there. There aren't any ANC bumps like was on the Nova Pro Wireless when that first came out. And my only complaint, this soft cloth fabric feels really nice, but at the same time, after a couple hours, it can start to feel almost just the slightest bit scratchy. And, maybe that is because the ear cup is smaller. It's resting in places that I'm not used to, a little bit kind of right behind my ear right here. But once again, it's never been something that has made me want to stop using the headset. It's kind of a mild complaint, in a perfect world. I don't know if it would be a finer material in there that would not feel a little scratchy to me, but I've only noticed it after, longer gaming sessions, and once again, it hasn't been enough for me to actually stop using this headset. And, speaking of the ear pads, they do mount the same way as the older A50, and so that means that older replacement ear pads, like those from Wicked Cushions, will work on here as well. I have a few pairs and I've tried them out, but these are cloth, which allows a lot of sound and air to pass through them. Wicked Cushions are not. They're a more solid material, and so they drastically change the sound of the headset. So beyond just trying them to make sure they work, I haven't really used the Wicked cushions because they change the sound so much. The Wicked cushions saved the Nova Pro wireless for me. It's the only way I could use it, as far as long-term comfort. Check out that review up here in the corner if you want to see that. But for me, on the A50X, it's not really an improvement. I will say the only reason that I would maybe suggest using the Wicked cushions is if you're in a very noisy environment. Because these are cloth, they allow a lot of sound to come through, and so that also means you're going to be picking up a lot more background noise. So if you are in a more noisy environment, playing in a room with family members or friends around quite frequently, or with a fan or AC or a really loud computer, you might pick up some of that background noise. And so having something that blocks out a little bit more of that, provides a little bit more passive noise cancellation like the Wicked cushions, might be a reason to swap over to those. Just keep in mind, the sound is going to need some heavy EQ tweaking, which there are some profiles out there that other YouTubers have created. So there are some ways to tweak that if you want to. And the last bit on comfort here, you can see they are adjustable as far as sizing. It does rotate 90 degrees, also pivots here a little bit to get a nice, flat fit on your head. But there is still some significant clamping force. It's not as light as something like the Sony InZone H5, which feels very light and very comfortable when you put that headset on. And so once again, typically using this for hours over at my sim rig, it hasn't been an issue, but like if I am wearing a hat, there are some different situations where I can feel that pressure building a little bit more. And so with long-term comfort with wearing hats, I'm not sure with glasses, but at least for me with a hat, it's something I noticed a little bit more, and it was a little bit more fatiguing because of that clamping force. Okay, so moving on over to setup, it really depends on how you're using this thing. If you're just at a PC, on the back you'll see there is a PC port, and what that does is it has a breakout cable that has both a USB-C here at the end, and then on the other side there's a USB-A to go to your PC, and then there is a power, so you have to plug this into a wall outlet as well. And then on the back you'll see there is HDMI out, and then we have HDMI ins for both Xbox and PlayStation, and we have a USB-C port for both Xbox and PlayStation. So once again, depending on how you're using this, what platforms you are setting up on this thing will vary a little bit there. And while the Xbox version, I think, pretty much only works with Xbox, PlayStation will work with some other consoles. So you could use a Nintendo Switch in there, which is how I tested it mostly with the input switching. On PC, Logitech G Hub handles customization of the A50X and how it sounds. Inside the app, there are 3 major categories: headphones, microphone, and routing. Hitting the gear icon in the bottom left opens up the settings panel, which has controls like side tone volume, base station brightness, and audio cue settings. On Xbox, the only on-console audio controls are through the Dolby app. Here, it looks exactly the same as what you would find in the Dolby Access app on PC. You can also save custom EQ profiles from a PC, and it will save on the headset to use them on Xbox, but you do have to turn off the EQ settings through the Dolby app if you want to use this. And while you are on Xbox, connecting the A50X to a mobile device via Bluetooth and using the Logitech G app will also enable tweaking EQ, but it doesn't save the same profiles that you have created on your PC. And moving on to sound quality, in its default form, default EQ, A50X has a pretty neutral sound to it with, actually, I would say some kind of dull highs. Cymbals in metal songs like Mist by Protest the Hero, one of my favorite songs to listen to when I am trying headphones, are fairly muted, but once again, that is very easy to change with EQ. And typically gaming headsets dip the mids quite a bit. When it comes to sound for gaming, they kind of emphasize lower and higher end frequencies for a more fun sound signature, but that's not the case with the A50X. I found plenty of mids in here. Once again, on metal tracks, guitars are prevalent and push forward and very easy to pick out when I am listening to music. Bass frequencies are also present, but not overwhelming like some other gaming headsets can be. Both when listening to music and when gaming, I never felt the need to boost up the low frequencies. But, sound is very subjective, and I typically like a more neutral sound, so your mileage may vary here. And beyond just the stock sound and EQ, I found the A50X to perform really well with positional accuracy and clarity. Once again, going back to metal tracks like Mist, some headsets can't keep up with the fast-paced left and right panned guitar lines. They get muddied and hard to differentiate. But with the A50X, thanks to those rigid graphene drivers, the sound is tight and clear. It's very easy to distinguish the two different guitars. And this also translates well over to gaming as well, being able to pinpoint different sounds around you when you are in a game, when there's a lot going on, is vital, and it performs well with a headset like this. Jumping back into Logitech G Hub, the headphones tab takes care of the EQ settings for the A50X. By default, there are 3 broad presets of flat default EQ, gaming, which reduces the low and pumps the high end, and media, which does the opposite of the gaming preset. Another neat aspect of G Hub is that users can create, and you can also share and search for EQ profiles that others have created. So here you can find some very popular profiles made by some people who spend a lot of time tweaking with this headset, and so it's kind of fun to do some research, download a couple, and find some that work best for you. Or if you want to create your own, Logitech has a simple 10-band EQ, but then hitting that advanced button in the top right turns it into a parametric 10-band equalizer, where you can tweak the frequency, gain, and the Q factor or width of each point on the EQ graph. So quite a bit you can do in there to customize the sound of the A50X. You can also customize the sound of the microphone, which once again is one of the best sounding microphones that I've ever tried with a wireless headset. So much so that over at my sim rig I replaced the SteelSeries Alias condenser microphone with just this headset and this microphone because I thought it sounded pretty much just as good and is much easier to use when I am sitting at the sim rig. And this is what the microphone sounds like on the Logitech Astro A50 X. We are within G Hub here. This is the default EQ. Now we'll hop over, and this is the broadcast EQ. This is what I typically use most often. And here we'll do competition, so you can see how that sounds. Once again, going back to default, and then once again going back to broadcast. And now we'll play around with the noise gate. Noise gate is currently off, and I'm kind of typing on my keyboard back here. See if that picks up. We'll flip over to night, see how that picks up on here. Then we'll go for home. Click on that so you can hear how the home setting sounds with noise gate. And then lastly, we'll click on tournament. So this is the tournament setting for the noise gate. I am still doing the same typing in the background. We'll see how the keyboard sounds. The A50X also comes with Dolby Atmos. Typically this is something you'd have to purchase on like a Windows PC to use with different headsets, but it comes pre-packaged with A50X, so it will be able to detect it automatically and get it set up, and then you can play around with some settings in the Dolby Access app. And this works on PC, also works on Xbox. On PC, once the Dolby Access app is downloaded, head over to the Products tab and hit Set Up to enable Dolby Atmos for headphones. Then in the Settings tab, there are settings for game, movie, music, and custom categories. Performance mode in game prioritizes positional accuracy for gaming, but there are also different intelligent equalizer options when performance mode is turned off. And when playing Battlefield 2042, I really felt like there were enhancements with Dolby Atmos. I could hear the rustling or changing of equipment near me in Haven Rush, not the ridiculous Rush XL playlist, and footsteps are still prevalent without Atmos, but I felt like I could pick up on more little details when Atmos was enabled without it feeling too harsh or too boomy. It was nicely balanced for this game for me. And I've said this with some other headset reviews. I think the Corsair Virtuoso RGB Wireless XT. Dolby Atmos is really the only spatial audio mode that I've found to be an enhancement when it comes to gaming headsets. Typically every other mode I've left off in the past and just, use the normal stereo sound, but I actually do think that Dolby Atmos can be an enhancement. So throughout this whole review process, I've kind of been thinking and asking myself, $380, is the Astro A50 X overpriced? And while I would say no for what the features that it has, it's also very specific for the features that it has. Once again, let me know down in the comments if you are someone who could take advantage of this setup and have take advantage of all the different HDMI switching back here and the product switching, the seamless pushing the PlaySync button to go back and forth between Xbox and PC and PlayStation. Let me know if that's something you take advantage of. Me personally, I don't know. I don't think I would pick this up because I feel like I'd be paying a premium, for some premium features that I would never really be able to fully utilize. Here's to hoping that Logitech does something like an A50X Lite, something that maybe doesn't have the base station or has just a very basic base station, maybe just charging, something where they could bring that price down and people who still want the comfort want those graphene drivers and want this incredible microphone can get those things without having to spend the extra money to get the base station that they may never use the full potential of. But that being said, if you are a multi-platform gamer with Xbox, PlayStation, and PC all very close to each other, this is probably the best thing you can get. Something that works with all those different platforms. It's easy to just keep charged. You just plop it on the base when you're done. Easy to swap between all those different inputs at the push of a button. That's actually kind of cool for somebody who can utilize all of those things. So I will be keeping it over at my sim rig for streaming. Of course, join us on Wednesday evenings, usually around 8 p.m. if you want to see how that's doing live in action. Otherwise, as far as a recommendation, you're probably going to know yourself if this is something that's right for you. If you have all those things and you have a little bit more disposable income, yeah, you're probably gonna pick this up because it's really cool and fits a very specific need. For most people though, you're paying a little bit extra for some things that you probably won't be able to utilize. But that's gonna do it for our review of the Astro A50 X. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. And if you're looking for some other videos to watch, check out one of these linked over here. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up so others can find it easier and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.